So as I initially told all of you that I was going to use ProProfs, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the link for your quiz in ProProfs, all right? It's going to ask you for your name and your email. Put your school email in, and then I will give you the password. So give me a thumbs up when you guys have all clicked on the link and you can see the quiz. Make sure it clips, make sure everything's closed, guys, okay? Thumbs up, can you guys see the quiz?
Mr. Martinez?
Yes.
I have like my history textbook tab open.
That's
Do I need
fine.
to like move it to a different?
No, that's fine. Don't worry about that. All you've got to do is basically just, here's the thing, is if you move to another tab, it'll instantly fail you. So just stay on that tab. It's a security feature of ProProfs. Okay, so yes.
Sorry. School email or regular email? Does it work? Does it matter?
School email, because because when I send reports, I can send you guys your reports. It'll just auto generate it to that email. Always anything associated with.
Where's the link?
It's in the chat box.
You're gonna tell us the password, right?
Will it trigger if we hit Zoom?
It will. If you go away from the page or you go, yeah. So you want to make sure that it takes up your entire screen. I don't need to see it for right now. And here is the password. I saw that, Kennedy.
So once I put in the password, I should just make it full screen.
Hit begin, yeah.
All right.
Or you can just do it as is. Just make sure it's big enough initially.
We can start, right?
Absolutely. As you guys are probably seeing, it makes reading the code much easier. Make sure your messenger is signed off. Good job, runner girl. You're crushing it. Good job, Terry. Good job, Allie. How many of you guys like the format better of ProProfs? Trust me, when you see tests, you're going to appreciate it more.
Will you check to make sure mine went through and okay? Because when I first clicked start, I had a bookmark thing on my Chrome that said like, would you like to save your password? And I clicked save and then
I
it
got
gave
it,
me like a
Kennedy.
warning.
Yeah, I got it, Kennedy. You're good.
Okay.
Good job.
Does it allow you to go back to previous questions?
No.
Because like it was
If
like
you notice,
being weird for.
I put all the questions on one page, so no.
No, yeah, you could go back. Like if you put in number 1 and then you went to number 2, you could
just
scroll back
slide
up.
back up.
You can scroll up and down, yes, but you like, for example, on your test, each question will be probably on a different page. You can't go back. So that's something I don't allow you to do.
Why is that?
Because it's a college course. Be confident in your answers the first time. This isn't principles. All right. Okay. Overall, the scores are really good. Okay, I still have. Is Steven here? Is he here today? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11. How many reports do I have? 11. Okay, so it looks like we're all good. All right, unfortunately, I cannot tell you what the answers to the quiz are. I think all of you guys understand that. Basically because of we have 5 people or 4 people that have not taken the quiz yet. So obviously I can't do that. How am I coming through? Am I coming through okay? Is my microphone okay? Cool. All right, so that being said, so I just wanted to, again, thank you guys for yesterday. I hope you guys enjoyed the little day off. So what we're going to do today is we're going to review the rest of the methods. As I told you, what's different in this class is sometimes I do allow PowerPoint materials to be used. I have PowerPoint. I have a solid PowerPoint of everything that I'm going to cover. So on top of lecture, this PowerPoint will be made available. I'm in the middle of writing your homework assignment. For some reason, I had it and I don't know. It's like I have everything organized from year to year to year. And for some reason, this assignment isn't there. So I just got to write it. So it'll probably be up within an hour after class. Okay. It's not going to be anything too crazy. You'll have a quiz tomorrow on all the methods. Okay. So, or I'm sorry, on Friday. I won't see you guys tomorrow. So Friday I will have you, and then what's going to happen is you'll take this quiz. We will go over mathematics, simple variable mathematics, and just really bunkering down on it. And then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to, on Tuesday, which is our first day of school, we're literally just going to do a review. Just review. Go over everything that we need, any questions, anything like that, sample problems, and then on Wednesday, you will have your first test. Okay? All right, so does anybody have any questions before we move on? All right, pull up your previous strings class, okay? And by the way, the quizzes, your grade books, by the way, are all up to date now. So if you look at your grade of what you have, it's pretty accurate, okay? Oops, stop share, whoops, that wasn't that. Share screen. Oh, I don't want you guys to pound my PowerPoint. Where's my clips? Okay, no, I didn't have that. Let me close that PowerPoint and let me open up that. Let me enable side-by-side mode. Give me 1 second. No, that's fine. Where is it? I should be able.
Martinez,
Yes.
is the PowerPoint going to be available before the test?
I don't know. Here's a quick question. Don't ever ask me about anything regarding my PowerPoints. If I offer it up, great. Okay. All right. So that being said, let's move on. All right. So I've told you guys about 5 different methods. Okay. So first of all, we have the length method. Simple. Length starts at what number, Leo?
0.
Nope.
What? 1?
Benny?
1.
1. When we're counting things, it always starts at 1. Can I have a 0 letter? No. I can have a first letter. So we have 1, 2, etc., etc. We have 2 uppercase, 2 lowercase. Do we really need to go over that? Do we? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, it's pretty
No.
self-explanatory. Now, substring 1 parameter changes the starting index value. Allison, by default, indices start at what number?
0.
Bingo. So they start at 0. Okay. However, and in this case, it changes the starting index to something else as long as it's within range. Who remembers the error that we can encounter? Isis.
It's the index out of bounds error.
Index out of bounds exception error. Okay. Now, I'm not going to require you guys to know string. If you just give me index out of bounds exception, you're fine. Okay. The 2 parameters, it changes the starting index and the ending index. However, it is inclusive of the first parameter and exclusive of the second parameter. Okay. The key thing also to remember is they are 2 different methods. We will go into overloading soon. Okay. Now, the methods that I'm going to teach you are going to be very helpful methods, and you can use them wherever. There's one that I do teach that that you'll probably never really use. Sometimes it's helpful if you're just looking at words, like a list of words. But another one is more commonly used, but I just like for you guys to know it anyway. All right. So that being said, what I'm going to do to start off is, just so I don't have everything printing, so you're not constantly saying which one is which, I'm just going to go ahead and I am going to make all my previous notes a block comment so that we can start fresh. Okay. Is everyone good with that? Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new string, and I'm going to call this string x equals, and I'll say okay, just some generic random phrase. Okay. So this is going to be the string that we are working with. Okay. So the first or the next one, your sixth one that you're going to need to know, okay, is called car at, okay? And what this returns is it returns the character that is at a certain index, okay? So for example, if I say sys out and I say x dot char at, and I say 5, and I print this, oh, and of course I choose that. Let's say 7. It's printing out the space, that's why. So it prints out the O. That means the lowercase o is in the 7th index, okay? You need to understand also that this spits back a character, not a string, okay? So if I want to store this, let's say I say car y equals, I'm just going to cut this, Command V, and I put an X here, that is legal. Again, oops. Oh, whoops, I did that, sorry. Y. There we go. Oh. You can store it. Just like I told you guys, you can store the length. Out of all the other 4 ones, this one returns an integer. Everything else spits back a string, okay? This one spits back a character. Now, it is important to understand what is being spit back because that is going to be important as we move further on down the road, okay? Again, a character variable is spat out. Notice that I can print it. It's fine. It's a character variable. It's okay. Okay? Anybody have any questions with that? Okay. So moving on. Let's say that I have a sentence, and let's say I want to, like, I have sunny Los Angeles. I have 3 N's, so we'll work with the N's. Let's say that I wanted to replace all the N's with zeros, okay, or O's or anything. Dot replace, okay, and first character, second character. So if I say sys out, and let's say I say x dot replace. The cool thing is that Eclipse gives you what the parameters should be. So I'm going to replace, now take a look, I'm replacing characters, not strings. Strings go in quotation marks. Characters go in apostrophes. So I'm going to replace all the N's with capital M's. Sunny Los Angeles. Very funny. I'm kidding. But again, take a look. When I run X again, it hasn't overridden the value. Just for that one reference, it has replaced the N's with the M's. This is a confusing one, and I will go after you on this one to make sure that that rule is solidified. You are only referencing the value, and for that one time, taking the value and temporarily overriding the N's with M's. You have not overridden the value of the string. We went over that last time, and again, I will have questions that test your competence on that. So make sure you have an understanding of that. You're just accessing the reference for that one single time, morphing it, it spits it out, and then you put the original back. Again, also, you are dealing with characters. Okay? But, question, so I'm dealing with characters in the parameters. Ben, what is this? What is this spitting back?
The replace?
What's the replace method spitting back?
A string.
Bingo. Remember that, guys. What comes back, what is being spit back is important, okay? Always be aware because that's going to allow you to manipulate certain things, et cetera, okay? So character at, replace. All right, I'm gonna move my console down a little bit so I have a little bit of breathing room. Okay, so the next one we have is one that I always get students that, like, what's the best way to say it? Like they love using this just being a pain in the butt, but it doesn't really, you're hardly ever gonna use this one. But sometimes, let's say if you're going through a list of names or something like that, this one is actually kind of helpful, okay? So this one is dot matches, okay? And it uses string, variable, or a literal, okay? So I'm gonna say, in this instance, I'll say string A equals hello. String B equals hello. Now, for those of you most of you have had some introduction to programming, most of you guys are understanding that the capital H and the lowercase h are not the same thing. At least for right now, without going too far into it. Do we all have that understanding? Yes? Okay, great. So string A equals hello, string B equals hello. Okay, A dot matches B. What I do is A has its own variable. So I could either do A or I could do B. Either one doesn't matter, but you're comparing one string to another and seeing if they're an identical match. This returns or spits back a true or a false. Now, we're not going to get into Boolean just yet, but we will. So, but for right now, just take it as is, spits back a true or a false, okay? So system.out.println A dot matches B. If I does match, it's a true. Easy enough, right? Fair enough, right? Okay. Now, this is where I want to get into. I'm going to cover it here. Last class, I covered it with another method, but I think it's important to cover it in this method as well. It works just as fine. Okay. Right now, does A match B? No. Here's one thing that you have to start understanding that's going to make your life easier. And this is generally, I never do this. And I think it's actually good to start early because the more you get used to it, the more you're going to see it, the more it's going to make sense. B is a string, right? Kennedy, PEMDAS. You're familiar with that term, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does the P stand for?
Parenthesis.
Generally meaning, what would you do first?
Whatever function is in the parenthesis.
Exactly. So function, or in this case, a method. So right now, B is all capitalized. But what if I said B dot to lowercase? Right now, I have just taken everything that's B and I set it to lowercase. So what I do is just like PEMDAS. I'm going to run this method first and it leaves me with a lowercase hello. Then I'm going to see if that matches A. Does that match A? Absolutely it does. You can start comparing things, okay? The other thing that you can do is, I could say this, A dot to uppercase. Now, what happens is dot to uppercase spits back a string, but it's a string that's all capitalized. Most important though is that it is a string, which means that string has its own set of methods. One of those methods is the dot matches. So in this instance, Kennedy, are we doing anything in the parentheses right now?
No.
No. So I can just go ahead and start left to right. A dot to uppercase makes this a capital hello, correct? Does hello match B? Yes, it does. So we would get another true.
Mr.
Okay.
Marty?
Yeah.
So if it were one of the functions that does spit back a character, this wouldn't work.
Exactly. So for example, if I said B dot char at, let's say 6 or 5, okay? First of all, the only downside is Dot matches requires a string. So you have to make sure that you follow the rules. So it wouldn't work. And the reason why is because this is going to spit back a character. But this is a great question because write yourself a note, because when we get into casting, this is going to make a lot of sense. This is where we can fix that, okay? So, but if I said this, b dot to lowercase, that does spit back a string. So, what am I doing? B dot to lowercase, that does spit back a string, so I'm following the rules. Okay, so going back to dot matches, the other thing that I said is string variable or literal. I can literally type it in. If I run this, let's see, that's fine. Oops, sorry about that. I missed that outer semi. There we go. Now it should run. True. If I have this here, it's false. So that's dot matches, okay? Very similar to another method that we're going to go over. But again, guys, it's you're rarely going to use this one, but it actually, like if you're going through like a list or cycling through a list, it's actually just quite easy and it's clever, okay? So does anybody have any questions? Now the add-ons that I showed you, we are going to instill those because when we're going to go over some of the old AP questions and you'll see that they're about 5 lines, but if you know how to add on and you know how to work with strings, you can solve them in sometimes 1 line of code. Okay. And it's just, I need you guys to start thinking that way. What's the quickest way? The only way I don't want you thinking is with escape sequences. If I have you guys doing multiple sentences, just use system.out.println. Make my life easier. Don't use /n. Okay. Just, you should know -n anyway, because it's tested, but if I got 20 sentences, don't make 1 long print statement just to make my life miserable. Thank you, Ashton. All right. So that being said, so moving on, here we go. This is one that is actually going to be very useful on the AP. It's not tested. You won't ever see any AP multiple choice questions on it. So let me also clarify that. When I say that it's not part of the subset, what that means is you won't ever have any multiple choice questions on it, and you won't have to write it. It does not mean you are not allowed to use it. So for example, like I was telling you guys a few years ago, system.out.print was not part of the Java subset. You could use it, but there were no questions that had it, multiple choice, and you weren't required to write it, okay? So I just want to clarify that when I'm talking about that, okay? So this next one is extremely useful. Dot index of, okay? Now you had character at and index of. Character at spits back the letter. Index of spits out the numerical index value, okay? So what it does is it takes the parameter is a string variable or a literal, and it spits back an int representing the index. So for example, I have string a hello. If I do a dot index of, and I say he, or just say h, this is going to be 0. Why? There's a lowercase h at 0. What if I wanted to do he? This is important. Is there an he in hello? Yes, there is. Okay. Oops, hold on. Sorry. Hold on 1 second. That was Mr. Gavosden. Let me just let him know. All right, thank you guys. Sorry about that. So what it does is when you're searching an index, whether it's a literal or a variable. So again, let me just show you also the other example. String z equals hello. if I do Z, that works as well, okay? Now, notice that it gives you HELLO, right? What if I was just looking for L? That starts at 2. What if I was looking for LLO? It doesn't give you all 3 index values. What it does is it just shows you where LLO starts. And in this case, it would be 2 as well. Okay. For example, the other thing, let's say, for example, that I made string Z okay. All right. The theater over there is the theater. Okay. Okay. First one is THE, right? If I run this, where does THE start?
0.
Okay. It starts at 0 because that's the first instance of THE in order. But what if I did this? Where do you think it's going to stay the same?
No.
Why is this system at A.index of? Oh, I'm using Z. Okay. 4. The reason why capital T and lowercase t are not the same. Therefore, this is not a match. Where is the first match of the? Some people get confused and they think it's this.
It's theater.
It's exactly. The first appearance of the lowercase THE is actually right there at index 4. Okay. There's a few trick questions where I will go over this, okay, and I'll try to trick you guys, okay? Be very, very, very slow, okay? Now, again, this uses a literal or a variable. The literal can be literally just one letter, so can the variable. It could be like that. And again, that's, what did I miss?
You have an extra quit.
An extra quit, okay. Then it's still 0 because the whole the theater has an exact match starting at index 0. That's why.
Mr. Marty,
Yeah.
notice that whenever you had A.index of, it said -1 whenever you had THE in.
So I'm going to go over that right now, okay? Let's say, for example, I'm looking for thy. A -1 indicates that there is no occurrence of it at all, okay? No occurrence of it at all. And that's going to be important because think about it. Let's say you're using this to find, let's say you have a list of strings that represent numbers and you're looking for the number 100 and you got 10,000 numbers, but you're not sure, you're not supposed to have any. You just want to double check. You can loop through it and cycle through it. And if you get a -1, that means there's no occurrence of the number 100. Very quick. Okay. Now in hindsight, however, we also have dot last index of. And again, I'm just going to copy this so I don't have to type this out. Okay, last index of. And again, spits back the same thing. Oops. All right. Now, oh, what the heck did I do? Oops. There we go. Okay, same thing, spits back an int representing the index. So I'm working with Z again. So if I say Z.last index of, and let's say this time I'm just going to use a literal. It's at 30, which is here, index 30. So this is great. You've got 2 tools. You've got one that will find your first index. You've got one that will find your last index. Unfortunately, there's nothing that finds the middle index. Now, luckily, there was one question a few years ago where they put together this thing where they expected you to use a for loop and cycle through and find a last occurrence of something. But the way that it was, my students knew this, and they used last index of, and nearly every one of them, they thought it was a joke. It can't be this easy. But the AP readers forgot about this method, and I was grading, and I had many readers coming up to me, that's not a real method. And I was like, absolutely it is. Absolutely, I taught my kids this method, and we just lucked out. But again, these are little tools that are just going to help you. It's very, very good to know these tools, okay? Now, the last two are kind of related. And before I move on, how are we doing up to this far? Are you guys kind of starting to see also, if you memorize the names, the only thing that you'll have to remember is what the parameters are. But for the most part, the name kind of tells you what it does, right? Char at, what is the character at this index? The last index of, what is the last or the first index of, what is the index of? Now, the other thing is I get a lot of people that put first index of. There's no such thing as first index of. It's just index of, okay? Now, we haven't gone over math, but when we're dealing with strings, it's very similar to dot matches, okay? So I have A and B, I'm going to use them together. So we have equals. And again, the equals takes a string variable or a literal. You're comparing it, okay? So in this instance, I'm going to say A dot equals B. And what this one spits back is the same thing as matches. Okay, A dot equals B. This is false. To show you how it works with a literal. Hello. True. Now, with dot matches, I showed you that example of dot two uppercase, dot two lowercase, and stuff like that, right? And how you could configure that. But equals actually has something, has another method that's built in. Take a look at this, okay? I'm going to copy this. And rather than having to put dot equals dot two uppercase or dot equals dot two lowercase, I can say dot equals ignore case. Okay? Dot equals ignore case. And if I run this, I have a true. The reason, so this is an actual built-in. So for those of you who have ever signed into something or whatever, your username is generally not case sensitive. Okay? Your username is whatever. It just needs to match somehow. It has a Java backing, and C++ has this as well. So basically, let's say you type in your email address, but you like to type things all caps. It's going to switch everything to, it's going to just basically check the database, ignoring the case, just at least making sure that if it's a capital M, lowercase m, A, or whatever, okay, whatever letters you use, capital H, lowercase h, capital E or lowercase e. That's what ignore case does. So it's basically, again, this method is telling you what it does. It is ignoring the casing. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Nothing too out of the ordinary. So let me add that as well, just for your notes, so you can see this on the video.
Mr. Martinez, I have a question.
And it's equals, not equal. Equals ignore case. There we go. Okay, yes.
You can like either, like you said, a string variable or a literal. Can you only have one parameter, or can you have multiple cases?
Good question. You can't have multiple parameters, no. So you can't add on, unfortunately, no. You would have to use conjoined statements. We'll get into that when we cover if statements and logical expressions, okay? All right, so we review everything, okay? We have dot length, okay? No parameters, spits back a number. Dot two uppercase, spits back a string, no parameter. Dot two lowercase, spits back a string, no parameter. Substring one parameter, spits back a string, but the starting index has been changed inclusive of that index. Dot substring two parameters, spits back a string, inclusive of the first, exclusive of the second index. Dot character at, the parameter is an int representing the index value, okay? And it spits back a character variable. Note, you have to do something funky to store it in a string. You can't store it in a string. We'll get into that tomorrow, okay? Dot replace, okay? It takes two parameters, both characters. You're replacing the first character with the second character. A character, don't think that it's only letters. It's basically any keystroke. A quotation mark, a period, exclamation point, a space, everything is fair game. Okay, dot matches, a lot like dot equals. More than likely, I can tell you right now, you should know it. You're going to be probably using dot equals and dot equals ignore case. Okay. Index of takes a string or a literal and it spits back an int because it's spitting back the numerical index of. Same thing with last index of. Okay. And then you have equals and equals ignore case. Those spit back true or false. Okay. And they take string variables or literal variables. So I've given you everything that you kind of need to know in this video, and we have discussed it. All right. So, and again, this is kind of like one of the good things that actually works in our favor for this class is that if you guys have noticed, if any of you guys have actually looked at the YouTube video that I put online, the code comes through pretty clear. You know, it comes through really clear, and it's a very good, useful study tool. Okay. So that is it. I've covered everything, guys. Great job on your quizzes. So far, very good job. Make sure, again, if you didn't do well on a quiz, not the end of the world. You have plenty more, but just make sure that you're constantly reviewing. You'll have the homework assignment up within an hour. Before I end the meeting, is there any questions that you guys have?
Yeah. What specifically does equals ignore case do?
It checks to see if the string, at least the letter portion, if they are perfectly aligned.
Okay.
So for example, you have H-E-L-L-O lowercase and you have capital H-E-L-L-O lowercase. If you disregard the casing, do they match?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's what equals. Let's say I had hello exclamation point, capital hello exclamation point. Equals ignore case identifies that punctuation doesn't have an upper, so ignores it. It's just looking at the casing. Do I still have H-E-L-L-O?
Yeah.
Bingo. If I had hello there and I had hello and I see if they're equal, are they equal? Negative, because one's larger than the other. Okay. And don't confuse that with an index of. Both have hello, but they have to be identical.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Who's
So
oh, Ben. Okay,
this
go
is
for it.
Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you don't have, like when you're doing dot index of, and you have something that isn't in the string, or it doesn't find it, right? Like whatever
It's
you're
back a
looking for.
-1.
Right. So my question is, could you, like, let's say it was in like a practical like application, right? Like, and you're trying to find, like, does this name exist in this like array or in the subset or whatever, right? Or in the string. Could you like store the result in a variable? It's like, if it's -1.
Absolutely, you could. Anything. So for example, let's go over this. Let me just share this really quickly with you. Anything that's being spit back. So for example, spits back an int, you could store an integer variable. Okay. We haven't gotten into Boolean yet, but you could store the responses of equals and equals ignore case into a Boolean. The dot matches, same thing. The character goes into a character variable. The substrings can go into a string variable. So
Right.
absolutely, anything that gets spit back, whatever, as long as you know the type that is being spit back, you can store it in that type of a variable.
Right. So like, and if I use like an if statement, it's like this was not found. If I like say if the result
Exactly. And
-1.
don't worry about that just yet. We're going to cover it. But as you can see, like, we're covering the basics. You guys are already learning a lot. Okay. I go from the ground up. It's not gonna be brutal. It'll just be like the baby steps until probably November. Then we're really gonna start hitting hard programs and stuff like that. For example, one of your tests is just gonna be 2 questions. So, but it'll take you the full hour. So, I saw that smirk, Allie. So, all right. Anybody else?
But okay.
What's that?
More like a grimace, but okay.
A grimace. Ouch. So angry. I see nothing's changed. All right. So, anybody have any questions before we leave class?
So I have a question.
Yes. What's up, Leo?
So what's the difference between the matches and the equals?
Nothing really. Just it's more common practice to use. Dot matches is more of like if you're just trying to find like something in a list. Dot equals is just a little bit more powerful.
Okay, got it.
Don't use. Oh, who left? Who just left? Okay. All right. Was that Vasily? No, Vasily's still here. Okay. Who was that? It was Isis. Isis left. Oh, she probably had to go on a run. That was awful. All right. Okay. Guys, that's class for today. Ashton, don't look so miserable. Okay. Bye, guys. Study for your quiz. I will have your homework up, and I will be uploading that PowerPoint so that you guys can review. Don't worry about the way that a string is created in my review. We'll cover that when we get to objects. Right now, if you see a string, imagine it's just saying string name equals this. Understood? All right, guys, have a great day, and I will see you guys Friday. So enjoy your day off.